Yes, my greasy ass just got out of the shower. Thanks for noticing. Today, I said I wanted to add more villains. So today, I am talking about Electro. Yeah. Oh, boo-hoo. He only talks about his favorite superheroes and their villains. I don't have much other frame of reference. Peep the shirt. It was not done on purpose until I sat down. Wasn't planning on doing this today. But my idea for Electro is pretty simple. Primary fire, beam. I want to have some sort of shift where he hovers. He increases his own movement speed, but not by a lot. It should not be a lot at all. Just make him easier because the actual point of the ability is an AoE field. It does tick damage to people inside of it, not by a lot, just enough to make it feel gameplay wise like it's electricity that you're standing in, and then he supercharges his teammates. The point of that is, the old Season 0 team up where you make your teammates shoot faster. That's what he does. That's exactly what he does. It makes them shoot faster while they're standing in there. No debuffs outside of the tick damage for the enemy team. It would be too broken. Put him as a strategist because I don't want him to do a lot of healing. I want him to play off of his team's cooldown, resetting and changing cooldowns, right? And we're about to get into that because that increases the fire speed. I want it to be like electricity, like you're supercharging them with electricity, allowing them to shoot faster. Doesn't make sense for every character. Like, why does Thing get to punch faster when he's being charged with electricity? I don't care, but as long as they're standing within that field, they do that. He's going to have pretty much no healing, so they'll probably put him in DPS, but I think we should increase the borders of strategist so that way you don't need to have healing abilities to be a strategist. To be a support character, you just have to support your team. Anyways, regardless, the damage firing, I know it sounds OP, Bucky and Punisher team up. It's not going to be that extreme because it will apply to every character in the roster, or should apply to every character in the roster, so we don't want it to be that OP. Maybe like 5% faster, unless that's not enough. 10% is probably the absolute limit because it will make characters like Punisher super OP, and you can't really dive Punisher because the shotgun makes him pretty much the best melee character in the game, as long as he's fast enough to see it. And also, an Electro using that while Punisher has a shotgun and just walks a tank down, the tank never gets to live, right? So you can't really make it too strong. And just because of Season 0 repercussions, and the power creep since then has already been so strong. Right click. His right click should be a blast. So his beam is like, when he's shooting an electric beam out, that's his damaging. It should be like, pow! Both hands in a big burst. It hits someone, it does a chunk of damage. Not like a huge chunk, like a DPS, because the main point of this, it puts one of their abilities on cooldown. Yeah. It's gonna be like a 10 to 20 second cooldown that he has, so maybe you only get to use it every 15 seconds, but with good coordination, you go boom, Emma's diamond form is on cooldown. For every character, it would be a different cooldown, probably the same abilities that Rogue can steal, if we're being honest, but it puts it on cooldown. So if you hit Doctor Strange with it, it pretty much resets the shield health. That's the only way to put it on cooldown for him, and just things like that. And it's only usable every like 10 to 20 seconds because that would be overpowered if you could just spam it. And then his other ability is E. He takes a ball, like a ball of electricity, pow, throws it at the ground. He increases. It's going to be a very small AoE, very, very small. It's only an AoE to make it easier to hit on people farther away, because everything else is a hit scan in this kit, because it's electricity. Except this one is a projectile. It's a projectile, so it can be blocked easier. You can see it coming and block it. Especially it will have the wind up of creating and throwing the ball. Because it will have the animation and it will have the travel time, making it AoE, tiny AoE, so that way you can hit people. And also, you can hit your own feet with it, is the point. So that way you can use your ability. It's going to take 2 to 4 seconds off a cooldown. So, any cooldown that is already listed that you can take. Again, like with Strange's shield, if we're using that as the cooldown, it just adds health to it because that's the only way you can affect a cooldown like that. But I think that's cool. I think it's cool to have a character that will mess with character abilities and cooldown times, because that is a niche, well, not really a niche, but that is something that has not been introduced to the game already, right? When I'm trying to create these character concepts, I'm trying to think of things that aren't in the game already. And for the Baron Mordo video, I did finally remember what the flames were actually called, Flames of the Faltine. I don't remember why. It took me literally 8 hours of sleep to figure that out, but I did. That's pretty much it, though, because I don't want him to be super overpowered. Since it's a beam, he should not be doing as much damage as Emma, things like that. And then his burst is just, his right click is just a burst that sets something on cooldown. Like, because that's really good against dive, by the way. That burst, if, like, he is good, a good peeler. Because it's hit scan, he can turn around, bam, slam them, one of their cooldowns is gone. Just gone, it's on cooldown, and then you can kill them, right? It's sort of like Thing, but not as broken. So, that's pretty much it. And maybe even if you don't put it on cooldown, it, like, locks them out of using it for the next 5 seconds. That's also usable. I think that's cool. But that's pretty much it. That's, like, I wanted to think of a character that could affect abilities, and I thought flavor text-wise, ability-wise, we could use Electro for that, because you could frame it as overloading their circuits. Overloading his team's circuits, so that way they go faster, and putting too much electricity in, which is why it does damage to the enemies, in order to fry their circuits and make it so that way they can't use the abilities. I think that's a cool concept, a cool idea. I am willing to, I just thought of it, the AoE that makes his teammates shoot faster, I think would be overpowered, but maybe has some sort of healing. If we really want him to have healing to put him in a strategist role, you do that. But it would be healing on that cooldown and that cooldown only, unless you really want it to make him so that he can shoot his own team and heal them. But then he just kind of becomes a heal bot, where he just shoots his own team the entire time. For his ultimate, I really didn't have any ideas. My only ideas is something I pitched for War Machine earlier. Put like a... For War Machine, I described it as planes coming in and bombing, and so it comes at you, and it's boom, 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 slower than that, or faster, and each thing does a lot of damage, so that way it forces them to walk at you, maybe to an uncomfortable degree, or they get hit, or they back up and they get hit maybe multiple times. I think you could do that, maybe do it in reverse with like a huge wall of electricity. I think there's cool things to be done there. But honestly, I just couldn't think of it, because everything I wanted for Electro, I've already described in his kit. Everything I wanted for this character, I've already put into his kit. And I think if they do it right, Electro could be a really cool character. Because let's be honest, if you've ever read Spider-Man, Electro is boring. If you've watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2, yeah, and you go, wow, the Electro's so cool. He's not. He's boring. That's like the farthest thing from Electro that we've ever had. He's just a guy who wants to rob banks and make money. And that's pretty much his whole character. I think the other Spider-Man villains are really cool and interesting, but Electro just doesn't have that, and the source material just doesn't offer anything for that, so every version of him is 100% completely different off the wall from anything else we've gotten. So I think Rivals could just add in lore. Like how I think The Amazing Spider-Man is a completely different character, because it kind of is. Same with Spectacular Spider-Man. Like, a Spectacular Spider-Man is kind of the same thing, but really not. Actually, no, it's not. It's closer to Amazing Spider-Man 2, now that I'm thinking about it. But they could just create their own backstory for it, or create his own motivations for being here. Or maybe they just stick with the classic Stanley and Ditko, where he just wants to commit crime and robs banks. And he just got dragged in here, and now he's evil. And he's like, he just got dragged into the conflict. Anything I think works there, but I think he could be a cool character. Because it gets to show electricity in a different light outside of, I hit you with big bolt of thunder. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. See ya.